Okay, today's video we're going to talk about how to take, a remarketing campaign, that ads that show up for your prospects after they've came to your website to look at individual products or services that you have, assuming that you have more than one product or service for sale. How to take what to put in those ads to increase the overall ROI of your marketing budget that you have to spend on ads to get them, to your site in the first place by 100%, just by having a few ads show up for your prospects right after they leave, and for up to about 6 months after they have left the page, more so, more of a length of time for the higher priced, the more expensive your product or service is. So I'm going to explain what this strategy is in detail, how to execute on this to bring up the ROI of the campaigns that you have that drive traffic to a product or service that you're selling, or individual products or services that you're selling when you have multiple products or services that you're selling, in which you don't have already a remarketing campaign that promotes each product or service individually, at least the way that I'm going to share on today's video. So with all that said, I will go through the strategy. I already talked about the results that you can get with this. I'll go into a little bit more detail on that. I had mentioned that this strategy is something that anybody can do, because there's a great workaround if you don't have the necessary material that some other people might, that have been in business longer, has had the capability to have. So really anybody can do this. 95% of people can do this. I don't want to say anybody, as long as you have good reviews for your company, which I'll talk about here. So with all that said, I'll go into a quick overview and then we'll get right into the strategy itself. So first of all, you guys who sell multiple products or services, more than one, you really don't understand how customers or clients, if you're doing services, care about the individual reviews of your product or services one by one versus the reviews of your company. So when I run a PPC firm here, Guarantee PPC is the name of our PPC firm, I always tell my clients how important it is to market your company as a reputable company that has great reviews and has a great reputation and all of that, as you would normally always do. People care about that. But respectively, beyond that, they got to be able to trust the product or service just as much. So and actually the individual product or service, they care, if in terms of weighting it, they care more about that than the reputation of your company. At least if you were going to do something to convince that user to buy that product or service, you would get more reaction out of that user focusing on what that product or service does than what your company does. Of course, another element is they got to trust the person giving them the message if you're selling in person, but because we're marketing online, we only have what they think about the company, what they think about the product or service. So what this strategy is about is to focus on the product or service individually in the form of having testimonials or reviews pop up for them, so we can greatly increase the amount of money that we're making to drive traffic at those product or services to get the initial awareness around them. That would be like running a search ad on Google specifically to get them to buy the product. Of course, that whatever you are able to net off of that is dependent greatly if you were able to follow them up with reviews and or testimonials for that product afterwards to prove to the person that that product is actually worth a damn or not. Or just in general worth a damn, I should say. So basically though, the people who only sell one individual product or service already know what I'm telling you here. That the reviews of the product or service is more important than what you could say about your company itself. Unless you're like, you've got a totally trashed reputation, then I would kind of say that, you know, that it could be more so equal. But generally speaking, if you don't have a trashed reputation, what, you know, those people know you focus on talking about the product or service reviews. You don't talk about your company's reviews. But for some reason, well, I know why, when somebody has more than multiple products or services for sale, they get lazy and they just start promoting what is the reviews of our overall store or our service, and we'll focus on that because I can't either get all the reviews or testimonials for each of the products or services that I sell, or I just don't want to get and propagate those reviews and testimonials because then I got to ask people for them and I got to come up with a plan, and it's just, I don't care. I'm telling you right now, you can literally double if you're spending, you know, $1,000 a month promoting Product A and you're generating $5,000 a month in sales off of Product A. You follow up with 3 to 5 testimonial and review ads, which you're going to have a series of 5 ads show up for somebody after they've visited and seen your product, Product A. See 3 to 5 ads that promote different testimonials, different reviews. You can actually, instead of making that $5,000 a month, you can make $10,000 a month just by doing this one simple thing. If you can't get testimonials or reviews for each product or service that you have at your company, you know, it's okay, because I got a perfect workaround for you to work around that where you don't have to get that. So that's not even an excuse for you not to be able to get this additional return from the traffic that you're driving to get awareness around your products or services that you're promoting on your website, which I'll go into here next. So respectively, you know, a lot of you guys have hundreds if not thousands of different products or services, you know, and with that, that's why you don't try to attempt to, if you do have any remarketing, i.e. ads that show up for a person after they've been to your site, to get them to, you know, finish their purchase at a higher rate than they, you know, would have otherwise, or come back at a higher rate to finish their purchase than they were otherwise, that they were going to otherwise. You have so many, you figure, oh, it's impossible for me to get and display individual testimonials and reviews for each item. Okay, but the 80-20 rule comes into play a lot here. In essence, you can definitely, assuming you have, you know, your Google Analytics tracking set up, you could see, or just go into your, like your Shopify backend or whatever, go into your QuickBooks. You can find out definitely out of your 100 items that you sell, what are the, you know, I say 80-20, more so what I'm talking about here is the 95-5 rule. What's the top 5% of those 100 items that get most of the sales, and also more so what is relevant here, that you spend most of your budget promoting. And if you have a shopping campaign, you don't know which part of that shopping campaign is being spent on what product, you could go ahead and see that in Google Analytics by looking at, you know, what pages are getting hit the most, which is just a side note to this whole thing. But in general, you know, it's probably you're spending at least half of your budget promoting just a small subset of items. What I'm recommending to you is just to pick out, no matter what you have, the ones that get the most traffic, the top 5 that get the most traffic here, okay? Once you got those, you know if you're going to put effort in to get a individual testimonial or an individual review for that item, that it's going to pay off big, because you're now going to get twice as many sales from the budget you're spending to promote that item or that individual service. Once you've done it, it's not going to be just a little bit more money in my pocket at the end of the day. It's going to be quite a bit more, because that one is the main meat of everything that I am getting sales from my PPC campaigns today already. Could be another thing, could be certain items aren't profitable. This can get push you over the edge to get you profitable. But essentially, you got those top 5 items. You're going to get your customers/clients to send you pictures or videos sharing your experiences with those products or services. So, basically more than anything, your customers want to know what other customers think of that individual product or service. This is just how it is. I don't care what it is that you're selling. This is what is the reality. At our firm, everybody wants to know if I've helped a tree service with their PPC campaigns at our PPC management firm. They want to know, what did the last tree guy say about it? And they don't care that I got a good review for this law firm over here. They don't give a crap about that. They want to know what the tree guy said. Even if the law firm's was more competitive, doesn't matter. And the equivalent happens for every business. Then building upon that, what also people care about is they want to see factual evidence of you working with that person or of you selling that product so that they can really believe and put stock in what you're saying about it. So in other words, just a text testimonial or text review of an individual product or service is only so believable. You can add more to that and crank up the amount of believability and therefore how much stock and therefore how much it's going to affect how much how high you're going to convert traffic that initially now you've paid to see that product or service based upon how much detail you provide. If you just provide a textual review, you only get so much. If you provide a photograph of the customer itself, you'll get more. If you provide the customer's name, not just their first name, but the first name and last initial, it'll be a little bit more, not much more. If you provide their first and last name, it'll be more. If you provide a link to their Facebook, it's more. And then the best of the best is a video review, because that in itself is the hardest to fake out of everything. And people know this. Whether they're thinking this consciously or not, they know it just has more an effect on them seeing a video review than just a text review. People know people fake these though as well. Even if they don't think everything out there is fake, they just still are going to be more moved by a video review. And if you can't get that, try to get a photograph of that customer with using the product, or just giving a thumbs up, like a custom photo that will prove that they're working with you or worked with your product. And if you can't get that, you get a picture of the customer itself and you link to their Facebook. Like I said, it's kind of a ranking there. And I have a video how to make, come up with and market the best testimonial possible for a PPC campaign. That's on a whole nother video. You can search for that on this channel as well. But respectively, that's the foundation of what works with the testimonial/review. Respectively, and just to clarify here, a review is basically a review like on Trustpilot or Google or Yelp or whatever. A testimonial is just something that was said about your product or service that was just sent to you. Essentially, so essentially it's the same thing. Okay, those words are kind of interchangeable in a way. But with that groundwork laid here, if you could not get individual testimonials for each item of the 5 items that you've singled out to focus on here with this strategy, or reviews for each of those 5 items or 5 services, then you can go to the workaround method that I said I have for you here that makes it, have the ability that it can work for everybody as long as your overall reputation of your company is all right. Okay, so that anyone can do it. Come here, it does apply. So what you do here, and a lot of people can't get reviews for each product or each service until they've been in business for a really long time. So I don't blame you guys, or it's just going to be a lot of extra work, and you have lots of hundreds of items. It may never happen. But if you're in that situation, regardless of how you got in that situation, If you can't get the reviews, take your overall reviews and repurpose them for the below mechanism, as it works almost just as good as actually having the real reviews for each product or service that you have, so that you can get the 100% increase in return on an investment of any traffic that you're using to try to sell that product or service with PPC ads initially, or whatever other advertising that you use to drive traffic at a product or service you're trying to sell. It would go up 100% on an ROI either way. The remarketing, or any remarketing you do, will actually, as a side note, increase the viability of any traffic you're driving to your site, which is why you do remarketing, not just for search ad traffic that you're driving into your site, but your Google organic, everything that comes to your site you should have remarketing laid up for. And in this particular strategy here, what we're talking about here, we're talking about creating a separate remarketing strategy for every product or service, but starting with just the top 5 product or services that get all the traffic. Given it takes some time getting it set up for each product or service, we'll start with what's going to get you the most return for your efforts first, and then we can go ahead and do the others later. You can also prove to yourself that this really works. It really will double your ROI, and then we could do it for the other products and services later on down the road as well. Possibly by, obviously outsourcing this to somebody else to help you do it for the rest of your products or services. So setting up a remarketing audience, by the way, so that you could remarket specific ads for people who look at a specific product or a specific service, is really easy to do through Google Analytics, through Google Ads. I won't get into the details on that, but respectively, the first step is you set up a remarketing audience for every one of those 5 services, so that later on we'll set up 5 individual campaigns that will target each individual product, or 5 ad groups that target each product or service itself individually. So if they look at product A, we can have 3 to 5 different ads that are for remarketing and trying to show and sell that person looking at product A reviews of product A. And then product B, people that get to product B, later on they will see reviews of just product B. And same for product C and D and E. So each one, that of the 5 products or services that you're selling, will only see product testimonials or reviews that are relevant to that exact item that they were looking for. Versus what most people are going to do, if they're going to do remarketing at all, which most people don't do remarketing. Of the ones that do it, they're only going to go basically 99% of the time, going to go through and just say, hey, you've been to our site, you're looking at this item, but our company has a great reputation and has these reviews, which they don't give a shit about that. You're not going to get 100% increase in your campaign's ROI that you spent to drive traffic to your site by just talking about your company as a whole. You will get it if you start talking about that individual item or service they were looking at, which they actually give a shit about. So with that said, getting back to what I was saying before, here's the workaround if you can't get individual testimonials or reviews for each item of the 5 that you're focusing on initially, or just in general later on down the road when you do other items. Try to do individual remarketing campaigns for other items that are specific to those items down the road. The first of this is in which I'm going to have as my go-to here for my workaround. I'm going to say, and the hypothetical product I'm going to say here that I'm going to give a name to is called the Oster. Okay, assuming that we're marketing the product name Oster or 8 Oster. Okay, if I have good reviews on Trustpilot, I got a 4.8 review on Trustpilot. Okay, say I have that. What I'm going to do on my ad, my banner ad, that's going to show up for the person who already been looking at the Oster. They were on Google. They saw, my mixing machine. Okay. they clicked on an ad, they got to my mixing machine called the Oster, and then they left. They thought it was interesting, but they weren't ready to buy then, which most people are always never going to be ready to buy yet. Out of all the traffic you get, this will always be the way that it always is. Later on, we'll have an ad that shows up later for that person saying, the Oster gets 4.8 rating on Trustpilot. So you see the trick I'm doing here. We don't have a Trustpilot rating per product. Trustpilot ratings are only for the whole company. So, but if we say, the Oster gets a 4.8 rating on Trustpilot, the person who sees this ad thinks, oh, great. That Oster product actually has great reviews. Through Trustpilot, I'm more likely to buy it now. Or that's not what they're actually thinking, but that's the cumulative net effect of seeing that ad with that general language on it. And so you don't have to have Trustpilot for each product, even though it's not possible to do that. You just have to have a good Trustpilot rating overall, and you create an ad like that. Once you've created that ad for that product and for people who've seen that product to show up later for that person who sees that product, for the other 4 products, you can take that exact same ad template and switch out the product name. Let's say the next product is the Murphy that you're selling, another kitchen product. Then the next, for the people that see the Murphy, we're going to say the Murphy gets a 4.8 rating on Trustpilot. And then the next product may be named the Jackson. And then on that one, they're going to see the ad, the Jackson gets a 4.8 rating on Trustpilot, and so forth. For all 5 ads will be like that. So now each of the 5 products and the people who see those 5 products, they're going to see an ad that shows them that that product that we're looking at has good reviews, even if we don't have reviews of that product through this method here. So yes, it's a little bit of a misguided, misdirection type thing that we're doing, but we're technically not lying because somebody's reviewed that product on our Trustpilot, respectively. So therefore, respectively, we can borrow this. And even if they haven't, I would use it anyway. So I would just simply say, I would tell myself, somebody's reviewed that product on my Trustpilot, therefore I can just use the Trustpilot rating I got overall for what I'm saying that that individual product got and their rating it got on Trustpilot. The Oster gets a 4.8 rating on Trustpilot because somebody's reviewed the Oster there. Okay? So that would be my one template I would use. Within that, I mentioned here that in order to get the 100% increase in ROI from the traffic you're driving into your individual 5 products here, which is what the whole point of this, what this is for and what we're going for, you're going to have 3 to 5 unique ads that are going to show up for a person in rotation after they leave the product page that we sent them to, or the service page that we sent them to, the individual service page that we sent them to. So with that, I would take another ad and do the same thing, but with my Google reviews. The Oster gets a 4.9 rating on Google. So it's the same exact messaging, but we're saying Google this time. And you can design it differently so it doesn't get ignored through banner fatigue or ad fatigue. But you'll have Google's logo and Google stars on it, which I recommend including the stars. And so they'll see, wow, this product, the Oster, is great reviewed on Trustpilot, but it's also great reviewed on Google. It must be a great product. They're going to think their knowledge is going to be more likely that they're going to be even more excited and think even more that this product is better if they see that if they've seen the ad for Trustpilot and Google versus just Trustpilot or just Google. Why? Because people have been evolved that when they start to see and hear things multiple times, that they believe it more. this is to help people not have to take shortcuts and figuring things out for themselves over time, over millennia. So technically they can see the Trustpilot ad a few times, which will have so much of an effect on them. But now they see that Google ad multiple times, they're really going to think what the net effect is. But back in the day, we had to draw our conclusions from what other people said about certain things. So a bunch of people said this person was a good person. The more times we heard it, the more we believed it. With the remarketing, we're creating the same exact effect on the user. So the more sites say that do reviews and ratings that say that this product here is good, the more I'm going to believe it. So that you could do Google, Trustpilot, maybe one more, whether it's Facebook or whether it's Yelp, whatever you have in your industry and what you have a good rating. I would make sure your rating's over at least a 4.5 to do it, because then it's going to start to technically, as long as it's over 4, I would probably do it. But if you can, pick the review sites where you have at least over a 4.5, because it won't draw any questions. Anytime someone starts asking questions, it starts, tapping into your sales at that point and the effect of what you're trying to do here. But with that, there's one other main template I would add as a part of your overall remarketing sequence here, which is going back to the product, the Oster here again. I would have the ad literally say, and these are exact templates. You could literally bolt these messages on your ads, get the effect on what I'm saying with the 100% increase in ROI, and not have to change anything else by what you're doing. Why? Because your competition's not going to be doing this. Anytime you put more work in that actually has a point and is effective over your competition, the more your sales you're just going to make. This is just how it goes. But the ad, I would use this messaging here in conjunction with the last ad I mentioned to you about the Oster gets a 4.8 rating on Trustpilot, or the Oster gets a 4.8 rating on Google. The other ad template to use is considering the Oster, see rave reviews, and then you have a testimonial there, and then a bunch of stars next to the testimonial. So what you're saying is, you're not saying the Oster has great reviews, or sorry, you are saying that. You're saying the Oster has great testimonials and reviews going for it. But the testimonial that you have is just a generic testimonial. You go into testimonials you do have, pick one that doesn't say the product name in it and look like it could be, possibly one that could be from any one of your products, and then use that in your ad and say, considering the Oster, see rave reviews. So the user is going to think this must obviously be the review for the Oster, even though it's not. So again, this is a little bit of a misdirection here again, but nowhere on the ad are you lying, like outright. I'm always I don't believe in lying. You can do something and leave out details. I don't consider that going over the edge. You're just simply saying, hey, I know you're considering this product, see our rave reviews. And you're giving them a review. It's a real review. You're not telling them, see the reviews of the Oster product. You didn't say that. And then you could do this 2 or 3 times. Have 2 or 3 different ads. Maybe you make them look a little bit differently. So again, the idea is your banner ads, your remarketing ads, your banner ads that show up for a person after they've looked at product A or service A, you want them to look a little differently each time, because the more similar they look, the more that they're going to get ignored and seems like the same ad, therefore they can ignore it. I've seen that before. So you can have 2 or 3 different ads with 2 to 3 different testimonials on it with the same messaging, make it look visually different, and you're going to get that effect of, wow, lots of people, going back to the psychological principles that this is all laid upon, as I talked about just a minute ago. Wow, lots of people are saying that this is actually a good product, therefore I should be able to trust the group. I should be able to trust the crowd. People want to trust what the crowd says, because we're also socially engineered as a people to want to agree with the group, because that meant your survival going back many thousands of years ago. So you're really forcing that user to get that message that the group approves this product, therefore you should buy it. And so 3 to 5 ads, I would recommend doing 5 ads per product or per service. If you for sure want to get that plus 100% ROI on your new traffic that you're driving into that product or service. But sometimes you can get by with 3. But since we're only doing it for 5 products or 5 services, depending on if we're selling a product or service here, it's not that much work. We're talking about at most 25 ads. Anybody can put that together. Okay? Of course, if you have your no tracking set up, you can go ahead and set up tracking while you're making your ads, baseline your results for 60 days, implement this strategy for your business, and then watch the sales go up. And so you know that it works, then you can do it for other products. And given, when you start doing it for 100 products, now you're talking about a lot of time. But you can do the math. You'll be able to see, okay, I make twice as much from this now. This person's this much per hour to do it for the other 95 products, and just do the cost benefit analysis of doing it for the rest. And maybe you don't do it for them all. You do it for the top 10 or top 20 or whatever products, and then that's it. It's up to you. You can run the math easily for yourself. Tracking can show you how much this affected your sales. If you have a super high priced product and it's hard to track your sales because the sales cycle or time in which they buy is so far out, you can at least look at what your sales are projected to be for like the next 6 months, and then implement the strategy and then see if they've went up, at which time you didn't really do anything else totally majorly new, and therefore now you can see the effect of what you've done here that way, kind of, which is what I have to do a lot of times here myself, because tracking for a lot super high priced products or services, that's how things have to be analyzed. And along that same kind of line or lines, the higher the price product or service you have, the less the tracking is going to pick up. If you're selling a $500 product online, your tracking may only capture 30% of the revenue, as per what the tracking says that product and that campaign that promote that product generated, and the tracking said it generated. Just in case you were wondering, that's very, very common. That is the norm. And on a $20 product, 90% of the sales tracking will work, or 90% of the sales will be able to be picked up with the tracking, because it's $20 item, something you either buy right away or you don't. And therefore the tracking is more efficient in picking stuff up. If you come back way later, the cookies may not be working, you might be on a totally different device, and it's just more likely not to have all the tracking connected to one, all the data does not connect to each other in the process that it took from the time the user initially searched to the time that they purchased. But going back to the topic at hand here, 3 to 5 ads like this. You can do 2 or 3 of the testimonial ads, 2 or 3 of the ads that say what your product rating or your service rating is on these rating sites like Trustpilot and Home Advisor and Yelp and whatever, and then you're in position to have a 100% increase in profit from the traffic that you're paying today to drive to market those products or services. As one other small ad, on the last template that I gave you here to copy here, considering the Oster, see rave reviews, quote unquote, then a testimonial like, I love the experience, and then show some stars next to it, because the stars is like the universal symbol of a rating or testimonial. So therefore, you always include the stars, generally in gold, because that's what people most commonly associate with a review. And you always want to be as least confusing as possible in your advertising, because the quicker they can recognize what you're trying to get across, the more likely it is that will recognize, and it will register in their mind for what you want to do. But the workaround here, if you can get a relevant photo in the ad, just like I said before with your testimonials, if you can get the picture of the customer like holding the product or next to the product, or a video of the person saying how great that product or service was, those are way more powerful than just a text version of the testimonial. If you don't have the testimonial or review that you want per product, or just say testimonial in this particular case, then what I'll do on my ad to make it even more quote-unquote believable, which is what goes into seeing how powerful each one of these ads will actually be, I'll do a relevant image. So if it was a kitchen product, I'll just show a picture of a kitchen itself and my product, implying that the person who said, "I love the experience," took that picture, and therefore that picture is on your ad there next to the testimonial, but there is nothing on there that says this picture goes with this testimonial. You're just showing a picture of some other, it might be your own house with the product sitting there on the counter. And so that will make the testimonial more believable because there's a visual element to it that they think, whether they're thinking about it consciously or not, not be faked. So I would add that in there if you so are inclined to get a little bit more out of the campaign here, and the increase in profit it can bring your other traffic and your other campaigns that drive traffic to your products or services, to get more out of it as well. So in general, that's the whole strategy in a nutshell. What you can do, how to work around not having testimonials or reviews for each product or service you sell. Start out small, see for yourself it works, then go ahead and do it for the rest of your products and services. Or services, I should say. But that's everything in a nutshell. I can teach you about the strategy, how it works, why it works, what you can earn from it. I have a ton of other videos about other PPC strategies on this YouTube channel. If you like what you see, I would really appreciate it if you like the video and consider subscribing, as I come out with usually several videos a week about other PPC strategies that I use at our PPC firm for our clients to guarantee the results and share them with you, so you guys can learn how to do PPC as well. I also have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog with step-by-step instructions on how to build PPC campaigns, more so on a step-by-step basis. Basically, you might be able to get some help there. So consider that first, and you may want to consider that, as that might be more along the lines of the type of material that would help you out more than just the overview videos that I do on this channel. With all that said, if you have any questions about this strategy, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within a day or two. But I hope you enjoy. Hope this will make you a great deal of more money on your campaigns, and hope to see you in my next video that comes out another day or two time. See you then.